So how do we convince delinquents that they will be punished for committing delinquent acts? And will punishing them deter them from committing such acts? And the last question, does the severity of a punishment of a criminal act deter delinquents from committing delinquent acts? There are three strategies for the prevention of delinquency: general deterrence, specific deterrence, and situation crime prevention. Let's talk about general deterrence. It's based on fear of punishment. This is focused on the general population. It's based on fear of punishment. Studies on general deterrence ask whether punishment deters delinquency among juveniles in the general population, including those who were not punished. So, for example, suppose 5 students were caught cheating and are punished. Their punishment may deter other students from cheating. The unpunished students may become fearful that they too might be caught and punished if they cheat. And the more severe, i.e. the length of the punishment, the more certain and swift the punishment, the greater the deterrent effect. And the key here is a juvenile must believe that they will be caught and punished quickly. If the punishment is severe, but being caught is highly unlikely, then there's no deterring effect. So you need the idea or the belief that they will be caught and they will be punished, and punishment will be done quickly. So that's the focus of general deterrence. Concept of specific deterrence. This focuses on the actual offender, the actual juvenile. Do punishments by the juvenile justice system reduce the likelihood of delinquency among those who are punished? And specific deterrence refers to the use of punishment for delinquent activity intended to discourage a specific individual from reoffending. The objective of specific deterrence is to persuade the person who committed the crime from breaking the law again in the future. And if we're talking about the choice theory, if a delinquent is rational about committing crime, it tends to follow that once caught and severely punished, that they are rational in the decision not to reoffend. But unfortunately, according to research, this is not the case, and in most instances, it's just the opposite. A juvenile is more likely to reoffend than one who hasn't offended at all. And the more times one is exposed to arrest and punishments, the less likely they will be deterred. And as we previously discussed, juvenile delinquents who commit crimes more than a few times, they're chronic offenders, and then they tend to carry on the same conduct in adulthood. The book has a number of reasons why this is the case. It's on page 67. I'll let you review those reasons, but I'm going to add a couple more that are not in the reading material. The juvenile justice system doesn't punish in an effective way. To be effective, punishment must be certain, but in juvenile court, certainty is low. The goal is to rehabilitate, so often there's lots of chances that are given. Many juveniles aren't responsive to punishment. Some have a low stake in conformity, or they have little to lose by engaging in delinquency, so they're not very threatened by the prospect of being punished. So there's a couple other reasons. Can delinquency be deterred? Does a strict deterrence strategy work? Research suggests that due to more police on the street and a get tough on crime approach, the delinquency rates have dropped and have declined over the last 20 years. But that doesn't mean deterrence works, because research shows it doesn't. Locking up a delinquent for a period of time only to release that person right back into the disorganized community where they initially committed their delinquent act isn't helpful. And there are a number of problems with strict deterrence approach. Minors are not rational. They don't know the laws. They don't even know what the punishment would be. Most delinquents are more concerned with the punishment from their parents. Experienced offenders do not fear legal consequences. High-risk offenders or teens, they may not fear getting arrested. They live in high-crime communities. They see it all the time. They see people getting and not getting caught. They see crime activity happening all the time and people not getting caught. They have little thought about the future or any stake in society. They don't grasp that getting arrested is wrong. Some are committing crimes under the influence, so their decision-making is impaired. They tend to commit crimes in groups. We talked about that, co-offending. The peer pressure outweighs getting caught and what the law is or what the punishment is if they got caught. Most serious delinquents are not able to comprehend consequences. Risk takers discount future consequences. Remember, risk takers? They can't believe they will get caught and be punished. They're the risk takers. Punishment itself may produce defiance rather than deterrence. Punishments backfire, and there's an increase in the likelihood of subsequent crimes. There's attitudes too. If punished harshly, if an offender feels they were punished too harshly, or the law was applied in a discriminatory manner, the delinquent might become angry or revengeful. Their status and perception of the world might be to reoffend. They may think they were treated poorly by others as a result. And of course, there's stigma that goes along with arrest and punishment. So then, hence, they just keep committing crimes. So, can it be deterred? Back to the top of this discussion. Delinquency rates are dropping. They have declined over the past 20 years. Tough on crime. The suggestion is it seems to work. But I'm going to provide you, we're going to, in a little, not in this assignment, it's coming up in the next week or two. You're going to see a video about a young man who was affected by these tough on crime laws. As a matter of fact, some states imposed what they call mandatory sentences on quote-unquote super predators. And states like California were sending juveniles to prison for a first-time offense. And criminologists backed up the research using this chronic offenders and juveniles who commit crimes. It was ultimately, years later, found to be inconsistent. But I digress, and that's going to be coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks. And we'll revisit this deterrence strategy. Situational crime prevention. Crime is a function both of the juvenile's predisposition for delinquency and the situations that the juvenile encounters. So we have predisposed juveniles that are more likely to engage in delinquency when they are in situations where they are provoked by others or drugs or alcohol are present. The benefits of delinquency are high or seem high, and the costs of delinquency are seen as low. We have that with the choice theory. But rather than deterring and punishing individuals, situational crime strategies aim to reduce opportunities to commit delinquency acts. So, for example, placing a theft-proof boxes on bus and placing, attendants in parking lots, deflecting potential offenders, like separating rival fans at sporting events so then we don't have assaults or people attacking each other. Target hardening, putting steering locks on cars. Target removal, where you just take the item that appears to be of interest out of sight. Car radios used to be removable. You take them out. I'm not sure if that's the case anymore, but you used to be able to take them out. Formal surveillance, right? Security cameras that detect speeding. Increased security, more police patrolling areas. Creating programs that reduce conflict, such as anti-bullying programs in school. Police tend to focus on locations where kids hang out and repeated offenses or delinquency acts take place, like parks, malls, arcades. They call them hotspots. The police also may create, in and of itself, in their own agency, a task force or officers that engage in a particular type of crime or crack down on a particular type of crime, such as drugs, drug selling, drug possession. Another one is weapons or guns. They might focus their efforts to eliminate or lessen the activity and hence deter delinquency behavior. So to wrap up, in sum, choice theory is premised on the idea that delinquent offenders make rational choices when they plan their criminal act and that they weigh the rewards and the benefits against the consequences. But is that an accurate assessment of all delinquent offenders? As we said, drugs and alcohol could play a role in influencing one's judgment or decision making. But what about personality disorders? What about irrational type crimes? How do you explain that it was a rational decision to commit arson, burn down somebody's house or shed, or taking spray paint to the side of a school wall? We could talk about theft. I needed the money to buy drugs. What about these irrational crimes? What about the Columbine shooters? Did they make a rational choice to go to school with weapons and shoot classmates and teachers? So there has been, some controversy over the choice theory. So we're going to turn to some other explanations as to why some kids choose to commit crimes over doing legal activities. And we're going to switch gears and talk about trait theories.